Hi, I'm Brian Thompson, CEO of United Healthcare.
He could have done a lot of good in this world. Talented, very bright.
I knew Brian. Tragic.
And he was taken way too soon.
Luigi Nicholas Mangione.
He was brilliant, valedictorian, and well-liked.
He suffers a life-changing injury during a surfing accident.
And it seems he has an enemy in his crosshairs, and it is the insurance industry.
Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming.
And on the morning of December 4th, based on everything we know from law enforcement, it seems the paths of these two former valedictorians were about to cross.
Earlier this morning, members of the Altoona Police Department arrested Luigi Mangione in the brazen targeted murder of Brian Thompson.
As soon as he was arrested, Luigi Mangione became a hero to many.
Young women are writing him letters and throwing him kisses.
Guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Of course, the question now becomes, who is Luigi Mangione? At 6:45 in the morning, there are not a lot of people in Midtown. So it leaves an opportunity for someone to spot someone pretty easily.
Somebody that runs a multi-billion-dollar corporation and no one's protecting him. I think that is just the biggest mistake I've seen in the corporate security world.
Good morning, everyone. In Midtown Manhattan early this morning, 50-year-old Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, was shot and killed in what appears, at this early stage of our investigation, to be a brazen, targeted attack.
The flags outside United Healthcare in Minnetonka are at half-staff today as the healthcare insurance giant mourns the death of one of their own.
I called them the Leave It to Beaver family. They were always walking in dressed nicely, good-looking family, a family I envied, you know, and hoped and idolized because they were just wonderful people.
So outrageous that, you know, a businessman would be gunned down in the street. I haven't seen anything like that.
Was it a personal vendetta? Would it be a mob hit? Did he owe people money? Once the news broke that the killer had inscribed those bullet shell casings with a magic marker with words delay, deny, depose, that really narrowed down the motive. They're the mantra of the insurance industry for how you make money. Deny the claims, defend them, depose anybody who tries to continue their claim against you. So once we knew that, it was clear this person was a mission-oriented killer.
We want to begin with the intense search for the gunman.
A gunman is still on the loose.
A shocking murder getting national attention tonight.
We have upped the reward up to $10,000 for information.
We had gotten to a point where we felt that we needed the public's help. And that's why we released, you know, the photograph and the video. We have him from the shooting scene, fleeing back uptown.
We had him in a taxi cab. We also had a clear vision of his face at the hostel where he was staying. Those two clear photos of his face were what alerted the customers and employees at that McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. The minute that they saw him in the corner eating his hash browns, they called police.
Earlier this morning in Altoona, Pennsylvania, members of the Altoona Police Department arrested Luigi Mangione, a 26-year-old male.
We've recovered 5 fingerprints that match our suspect from the water bottle that was recovered.
2 fingerprints from a energy bar wrapper, the same fraudulent New Jersey driver's license that he presented as identification at the hostel was the same identification that he presented to the Altoona police officer at that McDonald's.
As Luigi Mangione is being led into the courthouse for his first appearance, it's almost like his world crumbles in front of us.
Luigi, just do it. And it's completely out of touch. And it's an insult to the intelligence of the American people and its lived experience.
He's shouting and he's angry. We, for the first time, see raw emotion on his face.
Luigi Mangione. Luigi Mangione. Luigi Mangione.
Of course, the question is, who is this guy?
Okay, whenever you guys are ready.
We are on High Street, which is the restaurant row of Little Italy. You leave Little Italy, but Little Italy never leaves you. The Mangione family, what more can I say? I've known the family for at least 50 years. They are like probably one of the most respected, if not the most respected family in the Italian community. What a good-looking family. I don't know about this whole situation here. It doesn't make sense. There's something wrong here.
They got a big house on the golf course.
Right, speeding.
I'm very close to his mom's side. They're from the same neighborhood that we are. Just he looked like a Mangione and bright and cheerful and smiley, and you know who he was right away. Shook my head. It can't be happening.
They were generous with their money. They've given a lot to churches, more than one hospital, GBMC. They would just do it without expecting anything back. They are the epitome of the American dream.
He is born into this life of privilege. Going back through his Reddit postings, he seems to feel a little bit guilty about it.
I remember one time as a young child playing with friends. Fantasizing, we each sketched our ideal dream home. Everyone else drew intricate mansions. I sketched the floor plan of a small square house. They thought I was weird. I thought their mansions were full of lots of bullshit.
Clearly, one of the best clues that we're going to have about the psychology and the background of Luigi Mangione is his social media.
I contracted Lyme when I was 13 and started noticing mild cognitive declines when I was 15. My symptoms were very minor at first. I was able to excel in high school.
He went to high school at the Gilman High School, and that is top-notch school, and obviously he was brilliant.
Luigi Nicholas Mangione.
And well-liked, and an honor student, valedictorian.
The class of 2016 is truly defined by its inventive, pioneering mentality that accompanies a strong commitment to Gilman tradition. Throughout its time here at Gilman, the class of 2016 has been coming up with new ideas and challenging the world around it.
To achieve what he did in such a prestigious school that he went to was a great accomplishment. We're all so proud of him. We're all so proud of him.
As I conclude my speech, I have to remember that a valedictory, by definition, is a farewell. It's been an incredible journey, and I simply can't imagine the last few years with any other group of guys. Thank you.
And he also had enough smarts to get into the University of Pennsylvania. It's like, you don't have to brag when that happens. It speaks for itself.
I'm an undergraduate pursuing a degree in computer science, and am very interested in bioinformatics.
I knew he was headed toward like the engineering. He was good in math. Both his parents were so smart, both college graduates.
We know from his writings that even during college, he still struggled with maladies and pain and sleeplessness.
Basically, I'm in bed for 8 hours every night, and I wake up feeling unrefreshed no matter how much sleep I get.
But imagine that in your early 20s, no matter how much money you have, suddenly you're experiencing a lapse in brain cognition. He refers to a brain fog.
The symptoms worsened exponentially last year after my fraternity's very tame Hell Week. I simply wasn't able to recover from a week of disturbed sleep. It's absolutely brutal to have such a life-halting issue, especially since the issue itself wears down the critical logical thinking mind you'd usually use to tackle it. I used to play chess daily against my roommate. I used it as a metric to see how the brain fog was improving. Eventually, I just stopped since I could never remember any strategy. He would use the same moves against me day after day, and I just wouldn't remember them.
The brain fog becomes almost an obsession with Luigi Mangione because it's something that he can't overcome, no matter how wealthy he is.
The people around you probably won't understand your symptoms. They certainly don't for me. As each test comes back negative, the doctors won't have a clue what's going on.
I don't know what happened. There was some type of a change. Something happened to his mind.
Person possibly shot in front of the Hilton Hotel.
In criminology, we very often conduct, after a horrific crime, what we call a psychological or reverse autopsy. We try to reconstruct the psychology of our suspect, working backwards so that we understand the trajectory of events.
I met Luigi, it was latter part of 2022.
And Mark?
My name is Dorian Wright, and I am a yoga instructor and a studio owner. He's just like a normal, happy-go-lucky kind of 26-year-old guy. I don't know what would motivate someone like that, you know, to do something like that.
So I created a co-living space in Honolulu during COVID, and he applied to be a member. He was excited to move to Hawaii. He wanted to focus on his health, and he was looking to make new friends. It's incomprehensible that the person I knew and was friends with could assassinate somebody.
When I looked at Luigi, I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. He was quite tall and very fit. Every time he walked in, all the women would look at him. So, he was a head turner for the women. And even one of our teachers matched with him on Tinder.
It appears he suffers a life-changing injury during a surfing accident that caused him a severe back injury.
And that's what may have put him on this path.
Started when I first aggravated my spondy 1.5 years ago after surfing.
Yes, spondy is a bony defect in the back part of the spine. This piece of bone in the back that's normally attached to the spine is not attached to the spine.
My back and hips locked up after the accident, and my whole lumbar hips have been out of whack since. Bladder and genital pain for the last year, on and off.
Luigi is typical every patient in my practice. You're bounced around the medical system. Nobody's telling you what is going on. Repeatedly dashing hope induces depression.
It was completely devastating as a young athletic person. Seemingly all I could read on the internet was that I was destined to chronic pain and a desk job for the rest of my life.
It was one of those interesting injuries where, you know, one day he could perhaps be athletic and do something, and then the next day just immobile and stuck in bed. I knew he had to go home back to the East Coast for a surgery.
I had surgery 2 weeks ago because I had nerve issues.
He sent me some images of his x-rays post-surgery there that just make you cringe. 3-4-inch screws into somebody's spine.
Surgery was painful for the first couple of days, but I was shocked that by day 7 I was on literally 0 pain meds. Obviously, it will be a while until I get into rigorous activity, but it was way less a big deal than I had anticipated.
In his Reddit discussions about his own back surgery, someone else responds, and immediately Luigi starts to coach this person on how to get the surgery done.
Keep trying different surgeons. Tell them you are unable to work, do your job. We live in a capitalist society. I've found that the medical industry responds to these key words far more urgently than you describing unbearable pain and how it's impacting your quality of life.
And this is the first time in this back and forth about the back surgery where Luigi states in social media, we live in a capitalistic society. And it's a condemnation. After his surgery, Luigi seems to go on a pilgrimage, if you will, to Asia and enjoy and embrace a persona of the backpacker.
In high school, I was fascinated with the idea of living out of a tin can. Well, not living that way, but being able to survive in the wild using nothing more than a survival kit small enough to fit in an Altoids can. And it's a good reminder that we're able to go long periods without needing many things.
Remember, he has always had every advantage, but now he wants to see how little he can live on.
I suppose I've always been hyper-obsessed with efficiency, and I've never been materialistic. Those traits have persisted into adulthood. They are why I became an engineer.
In early 2024, Luigi Mangione pops up again, and this time with a review on Goodreads of the Ted Kaczynski Manifesto.
Ted Kaczynski was known as the Unabomber, who had created fear for years by sending packages that had bombs in them to various people that he thought were part of the societal problem.
Luigi wrote a very positive review of the Kaczynski Manifesto.
It's easy to quickly and thoughtless write this off as the manifesto of a lunatic. In order to avoid facing some of the uncomfortable problems it identifies, he was a violent individual, rightfully imprisoned, who maimed innocent people. While these actions tend to be characterized as those of a crazy Luddite, however, they are more accurately seen as those of an extreme political revolutionary.
There are going to be some people who are going to say, why are you even amplifying this guy's views? And from a law enforcement perspective, they're going to want to know as much as they can about the alleged killer, including why he may have done it.
A take I found online that I think is interesting. Peaceful protest is outright ignored. Economic protest isn't possible in the current system. So how long until we recognize that violence against those who lead us to destruction is justified as self-defense? Violence never solved anything is a statement uttered by cowards and predators.
It will be just 10 months from the time of that review that he gets a gun and allegedly takes action.
Luigi reached out to me via email. He was in Japan at the time, and he said he was a longtime fan of my work. So one of the articles that most resonated with Luigi was an article that I'd written called Why Everything is Becoming a Game in order to addict people to them. And he had bought a $200 founding membership to my blog. So in May, we had a video call. I remember that as soon as I saw him, he gave me a big smile and he was very enthusiastic. He described Japanese culture as peak NPCville. NPC is a meme online which means non-player character. And it's a term that's been borrowed from Dungeons and Dragons. And it refers to characters in fictional worlds that are not controlled by players, but are controlled by a computer program or by the dungeon master. He believed people were increasingly living automated lives. It was a big concern of his. I got the sense that maybe he felt the lack of social connection himself, that the people around him were not on the same wavelength as him.
I followed up March, April, May, each month, just a text message checking in saying, hey bro, how you doing, what's going on? And didn't hear from him.
He didn't interact with any of my writing after June the 10th, so it was the last time he was there. And he seems to have not interacted with really anybody else. He seemed to have just sort of gone dark mostly after that period.
6 months, no one had heard from him. His friends, his family, his parents.
He isolated himself, and there was no one there to guide him. And then, you know, your mind goes off.
And in his valedictorian speech, he thanks the parents.
Thank you for all the time and love you've put into our lives. You've instilled values in us, fed and clothed us, and simply been there for us every step of the way.
So fast forward to the age of 25, 26, he's not communicating with his parents. He's shut them out. Perhaps in his mind, his family had become the enemy because they were capitalists. They were incredibly wealthy. Cutting off communication with his parents was the only way to keep these magical ideas in full float in his brain. His parents would have been a reality check.
The shooter's mother had reported him missing in San Francisco back on November 18th of 2024.
In my view, the fact that even his mother didn't know where he was would seem to indicate he really had made a big decision to prepare for this incident.
To the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country.
And police say he even laid out his plans in a short letter to the feds and a spiral notebook, both of which were found on him at the time he was arrested.
The details are finally coming together. I'm glad in a way that I procrastinated because it allowed me to learn more about UHC. The target is insurance. It checks every box.
It's not necessarily easy to know exactly where a CEO will be at a particular time. The fact that this conference was on the internet with the dates and the times allowed him to plot this in exactly the way that he had wanted.
This investor conference is a true windfall, and most importantly, the message becomes self-evident.
Seemingly appreciating that they are letting him know exactly where Brian Thompson's going to be.
When I first heard the news, I was in disbelief. Couldn't be the same Brian Thompson. It just couldn't be. I remember him as a cute little kid. I'm very good friends with his mother, Pat. It's a heartbreak. We are fortunate enough to know him so well that the memories we have of him are very joyful. He was very talented, very bright individual, funny, had a sense of humor, enjoyed life. We have what's called a Watermelon Day, our annual celebration, where we serve free watermelon. We have a parade in the morning, and his mom was known as the ticket lady, so the Thompsons were well known for Watermelon Day.
Brian Thompson was also a valedictorian. He was also an overachiever.
One of his classmates and his best friend said, he's probably the smartest kid in our class and the smartest kid I've ever known. Went to University of Iowa, did very well in the business classes. It's not easy coming from a small town. I kind of knew he was bound for great things.
And ultimately made his way to becoming the CEO of a major healthcare division.
Hi, I'm Brian Thompson, CEO of United Healthcare.
Brian Thompson did climb the corporate ladder very successfully and relatively quickly at United.
Wendell interview, take one. Mark?
I was in the industry for 20 years, and I'm not the industry's favorite person.
I think as we look over the long term of this 3-year period, it's important.
Brian Thompson helped that company become very, very profitable and to be a Wall Street darling for much of his tenure.
United is the largest company in the U.S. by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, Walmart. It has grown and grown. But has our life expectancy? No.
We have no indication that he was ever a client of United Healthcare, but he does make mention that it is the 5th largest corporation in America, which that's possibly why he targeted that company.
Once a year, the executives go to New York City. They stage this half-day program. It's kind of like a dog and pony show in which the executives tell investors, this is what our plans are for profitable growth.
In the simplest sense, we're helping to accelerate the transition from volume to value.
Just curious in terms of how that drives your thinking on diesel growth.
It's a great question, Scott. So maybe, Brian, if you might like to start.
And Brian Thompson was always very accomplished, very well-spoken, very adept at answering their questions.
Certainly from this vantage point, I feel very good about the benefits that we've put in the marketplace, the pricing, et cetera. So feel really good about where we're positioned.
During the time that Brian Thompson was CEO of United Healthcare, a study of companies and their denial rates showed that United Healthcare was at the top, if not the top, in terms of refusing or denying coverage for treatments that patients needed. And it's an example of what that company in particular has been doing to satisfy Wall Street's profit expectations.
More than 150 people protested at United Healthcare headquarters today. Nearly a dozen left in handcuffs. The organizers want United to stop denying claims.
I needed a surgery in January, a hysterectomy. And roughly 2 days before the scheduled surgery, I received a denial from United Healthcare. I was informed that the reason for the denial was that the surgery was perceived as not medically necessary. It was infuriating, it was frustrating.
We're making it easier for customers and consumers to get the most out of their benefits.
And I was frankly at a loss. I didn't see a way forward. My surgeon did fight for me, though. I was able to have it as scheduled, but I did not know until the day before. United wouldn't do what they did if there were consequences for their behavior.
We want the system to work better for everyone.
The subtext of that, of what he was saying, is that, yeah, it would be great if they could figure out how to make the system work for all the stakeholders. It's just simply not possible. Because if you are making the system work better and more smoothly for people enrolled in your health plans, that means there's not as much money left over to reward shareholders.
At the time, there were reports that Brian Thompson was under investigation for possible insider trading.
He reportedly is one of the executives, and there's several that did share sales 2 weeks before it was revealed that there was an antitrust investigation launched by the DOJ into the company.
He and multiple other United Health executives are accused of offloading something like 15 million shares of stock before the probe was announced. Of course, once that investigation by the DOJ was announced, the stock then plummeted.
The reality is these mafioso have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it.
He refers to healthcare companies as the mafioso. He is clearly writing this for public consumption.
So Luigi Mangione seems to go on a mission. He has an enemy in his crosshairs, and it is the insurance industry.
And on the morning of December 4th, based on everything we know from law enforcement, it seems the paths of these two former valedictorians were about to cross.
I do apologize for any strife or traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites had it coming.
We know that when he first arrived in New York City at the end of November, he visited that hotel. He definitely was casing the area. The morning of the incident itself, we know that he was at the hotel an hour prior. As of right now, we think he acted alone.
To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. You can check serial numbers to verify. This is all self-funded. My own ATM withdrawals.
He had over $5,000 worth of cash on him in $100 bills.
He paid everything in cash.
This was fairly trivial. Some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience.
CAD, which is computer-aided design software to get a 3D ghost gun printed.
It's a semi-automatic pistol. It had a suppressor on it that was also built on a 3D printer. Every time he fired, the gun would jam, so he would have to clear the malfunction to shoot again. The recovered shell casings that we had at the scene matched that gun.
My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there.
He also discusses the contrast on whether or not using a bomb to make his statement or to just kill the CEO by himself. He states that if he used a bomb, that potentially he might hurt some innocent people, and that would take away from his message.
Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have space, and frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. But many have illuminated the corruption and greed, for example, Rosenthal, Moore.
Rosenthal is a New York Times writer who has written extensively about the maladies of the insurance industry. Michael Moore, the very famous documentary maker with his documentary Sicko.
The intent is to maximize profits. If you denied more people health care, you got a bonus.
When you don't spend money on somebody, it's a savings to the company.
It's not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I am the first to face it with such brutal honesty.
There seems to be a tremendous amount of narcissism going on with Luigi Mangione. You know, here I am so smart. I did this for a reason. It had to be done, and I am the only person smart enough and brave enough to do it.
I think some people forget how cold-blooded this was. This is a guy who was shot in the back. One might have expected this accused murderer wanted to say something to Brian Thompson before killing him. You know, you dirty rat, you're responsible for the deaths of millions, etc. But he didn't do that.
It's the lone wolf theory. That's what we fear the most, is the lone wolf, where he doesn't tell anybody what he's doing. He travels by himself. He keeps a very low profile, and he tracks down his prey and does his thing.
Luigi Mangione, the man accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, is now in New York City after waiving extradition from Pennsylvania. Several police officers and even the mayor of New York, Eric Adams, accompanied Mangione.
We're seeing the radicalization of our young people. We're seeing our young people believing that the answer to a problem is by using violence, and I think it is the wrong way to go.
Mangione is facing several charges, including first-degree murder and furtherance of terrorism and unlawful possession of a ghost gun.
Charging with the crime of murder in the first degree and other related charges. How do you plead to this indictment, sir? Guilty or not guilty?
He leans into the microphone to say the words clearly.
Not guilty.
Not guilty, with a level of confidence. He's unperturbed by the whole process. Like, this is beneath me. I'm sorry, yes, I have to show up and I have to go through all of this. But time will tell. You will see this was necessary.
I'm very concerned about my client's right to a fair trial in this case. He's being prejudiced by some statements that are being made by government officials. He's a young man, and he is being treated like a human ping pong ball, like some sort of political fodder, like some sort of spectacle. He was on display for everyone to see in the biggest staged perp walk I've ever seen in my career. It was absolutely unnecessary. This has to stop, and we're going to fight these charges, whether it's in the state or federal, to the fullest extent. Thank you, Your Honor.
It sure seems to me his defense is not going to be, I didn't do it. He could try insanity, but I don't think he's going to. I think he would refuse. That would undermine his entire cause.
But as a practical matter, the defense is likely going to focus all on jury selection, trying to find people who will sympathize or at least understand why Luigi Mangione allegedly did what he did.
Well, reaction to Thompson's death has been swift from people across the state and the country.
I knew Brian. Tragic.
Brian was a wonderful person with a big heart and who lived life to the fullest. Our hearts are broken and we are completely devastated by this news. He touched so many lives.
I just want people to know that this was a young boy who worked hard to be successful. He could have done a lot of good in this world, and he was taken way too soon.
But Brian Thompson became completely forgotten as a person. He became the representative for the healthcare industry that deserved to die.
Luigi Mangione dropped.
Luigi Mangione got a stunning amount of support.
Luigi Mangione, the suspect in the shooting of the CEO of United Healthcare, who's become the hottest cold-blooded killer in America. I'm not sure what this says about us.
Luigi Mangione was being treated as some sort of hero.
From what I know now, I'd say yes, he is. We'll see what the end outcome is.
You really think
Absolutely.
that accused of murder and he's a hero?
Absolutely.
I host a call-in radio show, and when I talked about the fact that it is abhorrent that people are trying to defend him, almost every caller called in to yell at me.
Well, what I got is, I guess you guys just missed the real news, and the fact that there's tens of thousands of people that die in every year because of this damn greed.
So that
it's
justifies...
going to happen even more. Right. And I guarantee you won't find unanimous jury to convict this guy. Why? Because he does deserve it.
I think it is shameful to somehow blame Brian Thompson for his own murder. And that is what a lot of people are doing.
CEOs come and go, and one just went. The ingredient you got, bake the cake you get, but
people wanted somebody to scapegoat. They found it in Brian Thompson because he was the CEO of the largest health insurance company in the US.
ain't no you in United Health, ain't no me in the company.
And so they naturally saw a young man like Luigi, who's a very handsome guy. He's very charismatic. He allegedly committed his crime in a very spectacular way. So of course, there were going to be people who would see him as a folk hero.
Hey there, Luigi, you put bullets into Brian.
It was immediately clear to me why someone might have wanted to kill this guy. The December 4th Legal Committee wanted to give a voice to all the people and the anger that they felt. One $20 donor writes, NYPD officer here. We're rooting for you behind the scenes. And then he goes on to describe a loved one who passed away after insurance claims were denied. One doctor who donated says, quote, I applaud Luigi for his courage, heart, and passion. A nurse who donated $100 calls Luigi a soldier of the people. If anyone deserves a badge of honor, it is you. I don't think it's possible to be the CEO of a for-profit health insurance company and not have blood on your hands.
I understand the chord that was struck. Just hearing the difficulties that others had prompted me to share. The part about me not feeling sad is thinking about the role and the position and what that did. I know that the CEO is not the person who looks at, individual claims, and yet there's policy there that had significant consequences for the lives of thousands of people and their families.
Sometimes we talk about the Robin Hood syndrome. This is off the charts.
Free Luigi! Luigi!
People are donating to his defense fund even though he doesn't need any extra money. Young women are writing him letters and throwing him kisses.
Taking a chance because I like you a lot, so we'll give it a shot. Give it all that I got. La-di-da-di-da, la-di-da-di-dee, suddenly.
They're trying to make him a hero. No one is a hero that has to use this kind of means to get a point across.
The thing is people aren't talking about the US healthcare system. People are talking about Luigi. He's become a meme. People are focusing on Luigi. Although he had this hatred of posturing, it does feel like an act of posturing. By killing, allegedly killing Brian Thompson, he's not going to fix the healthcare system in the US. It's just not going to happen. I think he was intelligent and he was somebody who genuinely wanted to help people. And so it's just a great waste. Nothing good has come of this.